Hi, everyone. My name is Robin Stafford, and I am a Regional Engagement Officer with the UVA Clubs program. Today, I'm pleased to introduce Lara Gastinger and her illustration work to you. I was Lara's neighbor in downtown Charlottesville and have known about her work for a long time. When I was thinking of virtual programming ideas, I thought of her and hoped that she just might be a UVA grad, and was thrilled to learn that she was. We will begin the program with a recorded segment that's about 12 minutes, to be followed by a live demonstration of Lara sketching, and then we'll take any questions you may have. I'd like to highlight just a few technical aspects. As you saw when you signed in, this Zoom session is being recorded. Your mic and camera are automatically muted. If you have questions during the presentation, please type them in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen, and Lara will address as many as she can. Enjoy the program, and we'll see you back here at the conclusion of the video.
My name is Lara Gastinger. I'm a botanical artist here in Charlottesville, Virginia. I graduated from the University of Virginia in 1998 with a degree in biology and a minor in architecture. And so I'm here to tell you about my process of creating a perpetual journal. And there's many ways to keep a journal, many reasons to keep a journal, whether it's a travel journal or a garden journal. This journal in particular focuses on the seasonal changes that occur in the world right around you, like in your backyard. And it will help you to become a better observer of nature and really to create a mindful experience for you and your family. My passion for plants started a very long time ago when I was a young girl. And also when I was at UVA, I even did go paint the gardens when I was a student there. But today what I'm going to do is try to inspire you to start your own perpetual journal. And it's a botanical journal where you document the seasonal changes all around you. So what you do is first you obtain a blank book. And then this one I started in 2001, and I dated the pages January 1st through 7th, 8th through 14th, 15th through 21st. Then here is actually my very first entry. It says in 2001 of January in this week, I said the bittersweet has faded and dull berries remain. So then I would just go back to this page whenever I was within that week. And so there's 2015, 2001 here at Ivy Creek, 2017. So what happens is each page becomes a very rich, multi-layered composition filled with observations over the years. So this one you can tell got very filled up, right? So I proceeded to get another one. And I got a second journal. This one, I can already tell that my drawing has become more confident and improved, and I have my own styles with background and shading that I didn't have before. So this book, I actually stamped the pages, same dates though. And so I just go to the page I'm on and then enter an observation. So let's see, this week is, well, here's the last week of May. So my anemones were blooming, the rhododendron were blooming. And also what's really nice about this is you only have to do maybe a small entry, or you can spend time doing something very detailed. And also if you're not an artist, you can just, you can do a significant amount of writing, or just writing observations. And so when I teach classes, I teach about like how to render maybe a white flower with a white background, or how to stipple, I use boxes to bring attention to different parts of the plant. So now I'm going to tell you about all the supplies that I use for my nature journaling in my perpetual journal. There are accordion journals that you can take for a trip. This is one that we bought. There are, my friend made me this beautiful handmade journal that I occasionally just sketch in. You can buy, I highly recommend if you don't want to spend a lot of money, this is Stillman and Burn. This is a great little one that you can take on a trip. Like this. They also have bigger sizes like this. Of course, I have a handmade leather journal with paper that is thick enough so that the watercolor doesn't go through. I also like it where there's no spiral bound, so you can draw across the page. My micron pens, I like 003, and they come in sepia or in black. And let's say I want to add some color. So there's lots of different ways. There's lots of like made kits that are already made out there. This one my kids use, Winsor & Newton. I used to use, I love this brand of paint. So this is nice, and I got a paintbrush that came with it. But then you have to carry water, so this was an espresso cup. So that gets tedious, right? Then it's a lot to carry around. So now what I use is there's lots of little kits out there, like Woodward and Father, and these come empty, and I filled them in with my colors. There's little cute ones like Pocket Palette, and even smaller, and I filled it in with mine. And then what you can get is like excellent water brushes, and they're really fun because then you don't spill water. There's just water here, and you just paint with it like that. And then you want to use a paper towel to change the color on your brush. Or some people even take like a sock and put it on their hand as they're painting along to change the color, right? So let's say you don't want to buy all this stuff. So you can eat a lot of Altoids and then a lot of the gum, and then pop the gum out and squirt the paints in. Or if you know somebody with a 3D printer, you can get little inserts put into them and then put your paints in there. So lots of different ways, but of course you can keep it really simple. And then when you're looking at the plants, maybe you want to have a hand lens, and then a really good book to identify plants in Virginia is Newcomb's Field Guide. But in the end, I know that seemed like a lot. My favorite, this is what I take out in the field. This, that. I just take these, those few things out. And then you don't want to have a lot of things that are in the way and prevent you from going out to do your drawing. I started this perpetual journal because I was studying biology and I wanted to just document the plants that I was seeing all around me. And so a lot of times people say they're not very good at art. Well, I say you just got to start. So this is my very first journal, and it has some very rough moments to it and some drawings that really don't make me that happy, but you know, I now can see dramatic improvement from this to this journal. And I love the quote by Mary Oliver. Maybe you're familiar with it, or her poem, Instructions for Living. Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. And I think if you start drawing and journaling in this way, you're doing exactly that sort of process. So you might be wondering, like, how did I get into botanical art? So first, I went and got a master's in plant ecology, and I thought I was going to be a field botanist. And so, but I applied for the job to be an illustrator for the Flora of Virginia. And so I got to work on this for 10 years, which was an amazing project. And so I did all the little, I did about 90% of the illustrations in this book. So I drew about 1,300 of the illustrations. They look sort of something like this. And I was able to collect the plants, work with botanists, really learn my plants, and really learn to draw very well. And one reason why I started this is that I've always loved observing nature that's happening right around me. And as a child, we would go to a lot of environmental camps as a family. And when we were there, I would learn about people like E.O. Wilson. And then I always loved the quote that said that the naturalist's journey has only begun, and for all intents and purposes will go on forever. It is possible to spend a lifetime in a Magellanic voyage around the trunk of a tree. And so I've always taken that information, that perspective, and used that to know that I can make discoveries just like in my backyard, and that can be very powerful. You will learn to become a better observer. A lot of people start this and say there's nothing happening in winter. Well, you will find out that in the middle of winter there is so much beauty, and you will just see things that you have never seen before. And each year it will become richer, and your observation skills will become much better. And then in our changing climate, you will even start to notice when, and I've noticed this, when maple buds are blooming earlier, spring is arriving faster, trees are blooming earlier. And so we all know that climate change is a big issue. And so this can become a record of seeing how that is actually happening in your backyard. A lot of my art is in full color, and I paint with a palette. And I also love in my art to show and to teach people about the native plants that are all around them. And so this comes from my journal and features the plants that you would find in the month of May. And I did 12 different, I did one for every month. So this is May, and then here is June. Maybe you recognize some of these plants that you might be seeing right now in June. The black cohosh, the franklinia, the echinacea, the monarda. And so through my art and my journals, I love to just tell people about the plants that are around them. And with this collection, I was able to go to London and receive a gold medal. I also think that, just like the way Rachel Carson says, the more clearly we can focus our attention on the wonders and realities of the universe about us, the less taste we shall have for its destruction. And so you should take the challenge of botanical drawing and creating your own perpetual journal as a way where you can actually make important observations for your children and for your family down the road. And this can become a treasured item for you. And so I'd love to show you a demo of like how I do this.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Lara. Thank you. That was terrific. Thank you so much for just helping out with all of the recording of those clips, and you really made it easy to turn this into a great program. So we're so happy to see the live demo. We did have a question come in during one of our participants missed the type of pen you were using. I was hoping you could.
Okay, I will definitely talk about that.
Okay.
I'll show it up close in my demo so you can see it.
Okay,
All
great.
right.
And we'll also be including a list of Lara's supplies that we'll send out afterwards with a link to the event as well.
Fantastic. I'll share my screen now.
Okay, great.
All right, and I will turn off my video. All right, well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining. And like I said in my video, I'm gonna show you how to start your own perpetual journal. And feel free to ask any questions to Robin, and she can interject them my way. I use a micron pen right here. This is my favorite size, 003. You can get these at Michael's or online. It comes in black or sepia and lots of other colors. I really like sepia, and so I use that a lot. I also do use 005, which is a little bit larger. you'll see that I have a very light touch when I draw. So that's why I use these pens like this. So in the perpetual journal, it's set up so you just go to the week that you're on. So today's the last day of this week. So I thought I would enter something here for you guys. As you can see, on the 28th in 2018, I drew some columbines in, I think, so showing the different progression of the plant parts. And then also in 2019, we hiked up Black Rock in Shenandoah National Park, and I drew the mountain laurel. So this is a great resource to have, because then I can remember when mountain laurel was blooming, or now sweet bay magnolia is blooming. So that is important to know. So today what I'm doing is actually adding my echinacea, which is in my garden, to this page. And so I think I'm gonna add it right here. What happens is the pages get really filled up and there's not many places to draw things. So, but when I start with the blank page, I usually have plants grow up from the bottom. Sometimes I have plants in boxes like this, but usually I have plants from the ground grow up from the bottom. So I don't encourage picking plants. You shouldn't. Most of the time they're protected. And this was in my yard. And so I picked it just for demonstration. So let me put on my glasses. And you can see, okay. And so I don't use pencil, and I encourage you to just start with pen. A lot of times when people start with pencil, they end up just striving for perfection so much that they don't make much progress, or it can just take a really long time. So you can see how sketchy I really am at the start here. And that helps to just get things in place. So actually, sometimes I make a shape like this, and then I'll say, okay, then it's a cone shape like this, goes around like this, and then I'm gonna have the stem come down off this page. Then I'll come in and start adding in the details. And it's okay if there's sketchy marks around your pages. This is your journal. This does not have to be perfect. This is the important part, is that you are documenting these this plant and having a little sketching practice, and it could be a mindful moment too. So people are always amazed how sketchy I am with the pen. I'm very light with the pen. I use the side of the pen more than the main part of it.
Somebody did just ask whether you truly never do use pencil.
So if somebody commissions me to paint something, I usually send them a pencil sketch, and I work out the painting ahead of time on a piece of trace paper with pencil for sure.
Okay.
But in my sketchbook, no. Again,
Okay.
So the sketchbook is a different environment than what I do at my desk, where that's a little more planned out. That's sort of more perfection. This is not. This is documenting it and getting the experience down. Great question though.
So for instance, because I know you do a lot of your sketching plein air, then how much refining happens back in your studio, or do you just go with what you've done out in the field?
Actually, I do more in my studio, which is sort of surprising, but I actually, this is just to show you, in this particular example, I brought the plant inside, but most of the time, I might sit outside and draw for maybe 10 minutes, get the sketch in, take pictures, and then bring the photo or a bit of the plant, if I'm allowed, back to my studio and then draw it at my desk. So I probably do like 75% of the drawing maybe at my desk, or what I might even do is I take my book with me to places where I have to wait, like at my children's sports events. I mean, like when they have their practice, like at band practice. And
Not
I
at
watch,
the games. Yeah.
yeah, the kung fu practice, and I will bring this journal, and instead of looking at my phone or something, I will maybe come and do something like adding the shading or adding the details. Because this is very portable. All I need is my pen. So.
And this was another question that came in with the registrations. In terms of using your iPhone as a camera, do you have any tips for photographing the plants?
Definitely. So a lot of times if you can't focus on the part of the plant that you're trying to take a picture of, it means you have to put a background behind it. So if I have my journal with me, I put the plant behind, or the plant in front of it, and then I take a picture so it has a solid background, and that's a good way. Yeah, and then I take numerous pictures from different angles and different parts of the plant. So now, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to ask, somebody's asked whether you try to capture each item exactly life size.
Well, in this case, I do strive for life size, but I do want it to fit in my book. So like this magnolia is actually a little bit smaller, but most of the time I do it to scale. And again, this is for my my own personal journaling. So I'm trying to capture more of the essence of the plant, or what I'm curious about the plant, or what is happening about it seasonally, not so much the sizes necessarily. I mean, I try to be to scale, like 1-to-1. Okay, and so another thing that was really interesting to me about this plant is the leaves. And so, I mean, if you can't bring like a whole plant home with you, maybe you can take a leaf. And let's say you're a beginner at botanical art, and you're very intimidated by plants, which plants are difficult. And so what you want to do is maybe just start with plant parts, right? Don't think you're going to draw like a full illustration of a plant at your first time doing this. Even in this book, I'm not even drawing the whole plant. I'm just drawing usually parts, like with the columbine up here. I was really just intrigued by these little parts of the plant, and one leaf of the columbine. So you can just focus on the flower, you can focus on the leaf. So when you draw a leaf, I usually start with the mid vein, and then I sort of sketch out the shape of it. So I go like this. And then I come back with a little bit of heavier pen. And when I teach classes, we do this. So we start with the light sketchy lines, and then I come back and add a little bit more heavier, confident line. And at this time, like I might even make a few changes to the illustration or to the drawing here. The cool thing about plants is like once you start to look at them and you really start paying attention, you'll see like how intriguing, like, and how different they each are. So like here, the leaves of echinacea have such beautiful veination, and that's these little side pockets of these patterning of the veins on the leaf. And so my first love of plants, I should have mentioned this, was really at UVA in the biology department. I was a biology student, and it was such a joy I had very inspirational biology teachers when I was there, and they just got me hooked on plants. And so, oh, go ahead, Robin.
Yes, does the pen ink fade at all over time?
It does, especially these thin ones. So I recommend buying like a pack of them. So they definitely do. So I'm doing this pretty fast. Another important thing is to be sure to write down the date. So today is June 3rd, 2020. And then you want to put information so you can remember this. Don't just do the drawing, you have to remember like what happened. So this was a very hot day. I think it maybe got up to 95. So maybe to sunny, and then I could say echinacea blooming. And like this would be enough to have, and then I would take a picture of this, and then maybe I would work on it later or add to it later. The cool thing is that you have a whole week to sort of add something, and guess what? You can skip a week and nobody's going to care. This journal, once you set it up, you'll be it will still be waiting for you, and you can just add to it like next year. So like sometimes I look at that and I say, oh, let's see, well, here's July. I don't have anything, so I have a goal because we'll be around more to add something to this page. And then here's some more of July, a different week in July. And so you can also see, I don't use too much color. I'm very sparse with my color, but then there is some time where I really feel like just focusing on it. But there's quite a range of detail, like stippling here to just outlining here. So talking about stippling, maybe you're wondering what that is. So there's 3 ways to create value with a pen that I like to use in my book. And so after I have this all drawn out, I might say, okay, well, I'm gonna come in and put some shading, and shading will help it to look real. And this is like if you have a lot of time and you just really wanna make it a little more refined. So you can do stippling, which is dots. And what I traditionally do is, in most botanical art, the light is from the upper left side. And so that means the shadow is down here on this side. And so I tend to shade on this side of the stem. Another way that you can shade is hatching, and hatching is using lines to sort of create shade. So it's a little bit trickier to do because you have to get have a light touch, but there are lines that go in the same direction. So this up here is hatching with lines.
Oh, somebody's asking, could you move the journal up a little bit?
Oh, that's a good idea. How's
There
that?
we go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So if you didn't see that, that was stippling is sort of just doing the tapping with the dots like this. This takes a really long time, but can be quite meditative and really beautiful and create a nice effect. Hatching is when you go the same way, the same direction. Like this.
And because of your botanical training and all your work with the Flora of Virginia, are you trying to do very literal sketches still, or do you add a little bit more, impressionism or?
Well, I always strive to be accurate. So it's really important to get like venation correct. It's really important to get the arrangement of leaves correct on this plant. So like if I was to draw the rest of the leaves, I'd want to make sure that they actually are alternate on the stem. They go down the stem alternate. So I'm accurate in that sense. And then also but I am capturing the character of this echinacea. So I don't know what's going on with my coneflower this year, but the petals are really strange, especially there's disc flowers and ray flowers. The ray flowers are all twisty and curly. So it might be fun to actually add in that and say, so I might put in a few here and write a comment that says, some of these, you say like very twisted ray flowers. And then maybe something's happening this year. Maybe they had some initial like herbivory or something, or something. Yeah. So and then you can ask, like, leave a little question mark and like find out about it. You know. So, but I do try to be accurate about the plant that I'm actually seeing. Yes, you don't really want to make it up. So petals underneath, you can shade because they're in shadow usually. So you can go like that. So this has a little more work to do. If you follow me on Instagram, I might post it a little more finished. It probably has, I'd spend maybe half an hour more on it, but I wanted to show you what it's like to add some paint to it. So let's see. Like I said, I really like this little paint set. And so I put my
What is the brand of that one?
Oh, sure. Pocket palette.
Oh, that's the pocket palette. Okay.
The only thing is you need to fill it up yourself. Although just in terms of like what's been happening today and everything, or this week, and this is a paint set that actually already comes with paint in it, and this is a plastic-free company, and it's an indigenous female, so supporting somebody like that is good. So that's on my list too, Beam Paints. So let me get a little paintbrush here. Okay. So like I said, I like these water brushes, and there's nothing super fancy to them. The great thing about the pocket palette is you can use this as the bag as a towel. So this is a pretty crazy pink. It actually does look like alizarin crimson, which I already have in my set. So I just wet my brush a little bit. So it's a little wet. People squeeze these out too much. Sometimes I don't know how much paint I'm gonna have, so I put a little bit there. That's a little intense. So I'm gonna use this and try to add a little more water. Might be a little bit lighter like that. Sometimes I do little dots just to make sure I have the right color. So actually it's pretty close to alizarin crimson. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put a little bit on and put in a little paint and then spread out the paint a little bit like that. So you don't need to fill in everything. I mean, I'm not filling in the way, this is not how I would paint at my desk. I would mix up a little bit more colors. This has probably more blue in it than this color. I'm just sort of suggesting, and a lot of times I tell people in their journal, well, just, you know, sort of focus on the observation that you saw, and this is not a botanical illustration. This is for you to write this down. Now, what's really cool is if you do follow me on Instagram, there is a hashtag, and it's with my name. It's LG, hashtag LG Perpetual Journal. And people all over the world have journals like this. And so you can see other people's versions of this. And it's really beautiful to see how people have taken this idea. And in some cases, it's helped them identify a plant that's been in their front yard that they've never identified for like 15 years. And by drawing it in their perpetual journal, they were able to identify it.
Did you take any drawing or studio classes when you were at UVA?
I did. I took one with Akimi Ohira, and then I took some architecture classes too.
I think one of your friends may have asked this question. Suzanne asked whether your study of architecture has influenced this work at all.
Mm,
I know, not sure.
no, I don't think so. But I mean, I think when it's interesting, when I was in the architecture department, one of my projects, what I designed, it was a botanical art studio with a greenhouse attached to it. So it's always been about plants for me. And then what I might do is, the center is very yellow. So I'm going to take my brush, squeeze it out until it's clear. So it's pretty amazing to have this brush. Like if somebody was saying, if you want to get kids involved, oh my gosh, buy them one of these brushes and then get them like a little portable journal. And then there's even like little pre-made watercolor strips. I can send that in the supply list. And so this can become a treasure with the pen, you know.
And do the water brushes come in different sizes?
They do, and you want the small tip, yeah. So this is a Niji, N-I-J-I. There's another one that has like a very big. They're shorter. I don't like the shorter ones. Let me see. I don't like these. The water comes out so fast. So. Okay, so I'm gonna put in some of these. And you know, coneflower is kind of a hard one. So, but you know, let's say you want to paint the coneflower somehow in your journal that it's blooming. Well, let's say, why don't you can also just start with like a petal. You know, you can just do the petal, and that would be enough. The petal and a leaf, you know. And so you can. So, any other questions, Robin, about?
Yeah, I think, well, somebody asked whether, you know, typically you would finish all of the pen work first before you started the color, or do you go back and forth between the two?
I go back and forth. Like right now, I'm going back.
Okay.
I honestly, if you look through this whole book, I honestly do not do a huge amount of. Let me move it so it's a little more centered. I don't do a huge amount of watercolor. I'd rather just do the pen. I mean, here I wanted to get the color of the fire pink, or the color of the poppy. And then some of these pages just work out where I just do backgrounds. And that worked really well.
Somebody has just asked, do you ever include pressed flowers in your journal?
Pressed flowers? No.
Okay.
But I know that people have. I wouldn't want it to like degrade and change the paper or fall apart. But I've seen people tape in flowers. And that's another thing, like if you want to tape in or add in quotes or any inspiration, you can do that. This is for you. The whole point is that it makes it perpetual if you date it. And let's say you get a journal that doesn't have the 52 pages. Well, you can date it however you'd like. You can date it. I've seen people do 2 spreads. So this is 1 spread. This is the 2nd spread per month. So, but then you fill that up really fast. Or you could do just 4 spreads per each month. So there's lots of different ways. You could also just do the 4 seasons. So there's a lot you can do, but the dating means you keep returning back to it.
Somebody is asking, have you tried ID Naturalist or another app to help with plant identification?
I love iNaturalist, and it's a good service anyways. It's great being a citizen scientist and adding to that data, and I encourage everybody to join iNaturalist. It's also really great because there's experts on there that you don't even have to know what it is, and they'll tell you what it is. The other really good app is, of course, the Flora of Virginia, which I didn't mention, and that is great if you're trying to ID out plants. So if you don't want to buy the huge Flora of Virginia and carry it around, then I would just recommend the the Flora of Virginia app, and it's really great. Really highly recommend it. You can also email me pictures. I love plant questions. Well, they have to be on the East Coast, like in Mid-Atlantic.
Okay. Somebody was asking what's your most challenging. I think we're loving to see you paint, Lara. So you and I were going to break away and do a little face-to-face, but I mean, I think we're all kind of mesmerized watching this.
Okay.
If you don't mind continuing, and I'll just kind of
that's fine.
weave in some other questions. So somebody asked in terms of the Flora encyclopedia, what the most challenging plants were.
Well, they were the huge ones. Like, I don't know if you guys go up into Shenandoah National Park, but the cow parsnip, those ones with the big umbels of flowers. Umbels are like umbrella. They're like in the Queen Anne's lace family, or the carrot family. Those are so hard to draw because they branch out in different directions and they're covered with insects. So drawing that was really, really hard. And also I had to scale it down. I did have to draw poison ivy and poison oak also, but those were in like acetate bags, so I could just see through to those.
In your own garden, have you planted things that you like to draw, or have you planted things and then realized, you know what I'm asking? Just
Yes.
Does your garden feed your drawing, or vice versa?
A little bit of both. But so like in my garden, well, I have this one, which doesn't look that great, but this is the Robin's plantain. And so this is important to show how this is important, that because a few weeks ago, it was actually in full flower. So it's nice to see that. But what I have planted in my garden that I love would be things like the trillium.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what else. Oh, the May apples. Mm-hmm. And the bloodroot. And the ferns. So yeah, my garden is a huge inspiration for me as a resource for everything. We try to keep we primarily have just native plants in our garden too.
And speaking of that, I know you have two sons, and somebody asked whether you have any suggestions for getting children interested in observing nature closely and sketching.
Well, I wish I did have some good answers, but they each have their own little journal that I bring when we go camping, but they tend to not fill it out that much. So, but here's what I do recommend for kids. If you have little kids, this is a great summer project. You can just get a twig and some rubber bands, one rubber band, and cut paper and some cardboard. And then you can, because then you can make your own journal and just give them the water brush. And then they can have their own little book. These watercolor things, they're called Peerless watercolors. They're self-blending colors, and they're sheets, and you just cut them up and glue them in. It's really like this sort of setup. But one thing that they do well is that they actually go find stuff for me to draw. So I would say the most important things for kids is just to have them be good observers and be curious. You know, they have drawn with me a few times and they're great, but they would rather play Minecraft.
Oh dear. Let's see. Here's another, I'm holding off on my UVA question, your UVA anecdote, but I have another question that came in with the registration. Did you feel connected to the 18th century botanical explorers at any time in your learning process? And kind of a follow-on question to that, is your work influenced by any historic female botanical illustrators, for example, Maria Sibylla Marion?
Yes. Well, so I do like that idea of feeling that I would have really enjoyed it being maybe a plant collector, although I think it would have been a little challenging. I would have liked to maybe be the person drawing them or recording them. So yeah, I do sometimes associate myself with some of that. And then Maria, let's see, she's fantastic because she actually really did these beautiful compositions with pollinators, and she would watch the insects hatch. And so I do not do insects. So, but of course, like her style of painting that tells a story really resonates with me. But again, I haven't done a terrible number of insects.
Mm-hmm.
My collection of the London show was inspired by the illustrated plates of Ernst Haeckel, and in his work, he created these, you've probably seen some of his work. They're very composed and symmetric compositions of organisms. And so that was what my London series.
Were those the examples you showed us earlier?
Yes, yes.
A couple of pages. And so those were the May plants, or?
Mm-hmm. And
yeah.
so I have one for every month.
Oh, okay. So
if you go to my website, you can actually see all 12 of them. And they were so wonderful to do. It took me over 2 years. And
oh my gosh.
It really combined the love and the observations of the perpetual journal and put them into this beautiful way where you can see like what's happening in each month in Virginia. And actually I sell those as CLAS or limited edition prints. So you can buy your favorite month or all of the months.
And this is on your website?
They are, yeah.
Okay. We have another question. Do you draw many water or bog plants?
Let's see. I have not. I haven't.
Okay.
For the Flora I did, I had to draw some water lilies and sundews, but no, I haven't. Again, I draw what's around me, and so it really tends to be in my backyard. I don't draw planted stuff like domesticated plants. I try to stick to things that are, as I go running along the Meadow Creek Parkway, I take pictures, or sometimes those are such weeds. Sometimes I take a little snip of that and add that to my journal.
So at what point in this, I know you've kept this journal since, did you say 2001 or?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So presumably it was just for you at the beginning. When did it turn more public facing, or when did people really start to show an interest in it, or how did that happen?
It was definitely when I went onto Instagram in 2000, and I think it was 15 or 14, the end of 14, yeah.
So not before that then?
No. But so Instagram definitely provides the platform that enables sharing like this. So, and learning from it. So, I mean, I used to share it in my classes. So I do teach classes in starting and maintaining your perpetual journal. And also, so that's one thing. The second thing is I teach pen illustration, how to do stippling, hatching, and the final one is cross hatching. And then I teach very detailed watercolor painting. And we're just wrapping up a class tomorrow. We're painting peonies. So that's been a challenge to do it on Zoom, but everybody's doing really great. I will offer more classes soon. I had to get through these classes first.
Somebody's wondering what sort of paper is in this journal?
Yes, so this paper it's a Fabriano Artistico paper. And so it's a hot press, which means smooth paper. And it's fairly thick. This is 140 versus like printer paper, which the watercolor would go through. So this is nice because you can't see to the other side when you paint or use ink. So Fabriano Artistico. But if you get some of those other journals I mentioned, they have really nice paper too. So let's say you're just starting off. Just get one of these really small ones, a Stillman and Burn. They're really nice and portable. I took this when we went to Europe. And so I would just sketch out the plants, and then I would add color at lunchtime or something like that. Just mainly pen illustration. And then this was a hike. This is when I go outside of the Piedmont and Blue Ridge of Virginia. If you've noticed, this book is just Piedmont and Blue Ridge of Virginia. So I encourage you to not make this be a travel journal. I have something different for the travel journal. Like for instance, I showed in the little, the demo or the video, you can buy these accordion books. And so as a family, this is how I got the kids to journal. We ended up all drawing in this big, this journal. We would just bring it out and then anybody would add to it. It was really hot. It was really hot. But there's a lot of journals out there. I didn't even talk about this one. This is Handbook from Kansas City, actually. So maybe you want like a really cool format like this one. So I would say just make sure you have a seam that's not spiral bound and pretty thick paper, so you can add some watercolors to it. And I like smooth paper, so not bumpy. Let's see here.
This is so great. I love all the visuals here are so terrific.
Thank you. Yeah, it's working out. This is again why you want to have no spiral bound, because you can just go straight across the page. Oh, here I am at the outer, this is the Outer Banks. We're not sure if we're going this year.
So do you happen to have the little UVA? I think we're getting close to our wrap-up time.
I do.
The little UVA book. When you made the mistake.
Oh, the UVA book.
The little. Well, you could show both, but the little. Yes, your application. You made the mistake.
Oh, I applied to live on the. I applied to live on the lawn. I can't zoom out farther than this. And I don't know what I was writing. Don't read the writing. But anyways, I attached all these little. This is just the copy. I guess they still have the original, or I'm not sure. Attached all like stacks of illustrations and pages from the Pavilion Garden. And unfortunately they disqualified me because technically I wasn't supposed to attach paper to the application. And then while at UVA, I took a class with Warren Bird, and we would just go paint different places around Charlottesville. And so let's see, Mormon's River over here. And in here is, I think, some of the, let's see, this is Red Hill Road. So it was fun that we did a lot of landscape. Let me try to find the garden. I'm sorry, I didn't mark it. So I used to have a lot looser style, but UVA was definitely where I started a lot of the drawing and focusing on plants.
Yeah, it's fun to see the progression.
Mm-hmm. That's why I always tell people, like, you start somewhere. And then I was in the biology department, and so we went to San Salvador, and I would actually draw all the plants. So that was sort of where I started really drawing a lot of different, really focusing on the plants.
So neat.
All right, so let me stop sharing if there's any other questions.
I think we've answered most of them.
Okay.
Yes, Lara, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
This was really terrific. I hope you don't regret talking to me that day a few years ago when I learned about this.
Well, I expect you to start one.
Yes, I know. But thank you for letting us in your studio and all of the demonstration. It was terrific. And as I mentioned before, we will send out a complete supply list to all the registrants and a link to the event. Feel free to share that. And if you have any questions for Lara, you can reach out to her. And she is on Instagram, and it is Lara Gastinger. Yes?
That's
on Instagram. Yes.
Yeah.
And so anyway, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you all.
Enjoy.
Yes, thank you all for joining us at home. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.